On episode 1 of Pints of Interest, the boys give you some beer news, how a taste-off between 4 IPAs, and let you know what food and entertainment will pair best with the winner. All this coming up on Pints of Interest.
Welcome to the Pints of Interest podcast, coming to you from Chambersburg, PA. This episode is beginning a little different than normal. The regular opening is missing as we decided to make the introduction its own episode, and it took the opening with it. So, you're stuck with this. Today, it's IPAs. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the beer news. It's the beer news, yeah! Point that forward. So, yeah, in beer news, let's see. I know Sam Adams is releasing those two single batch things. No way in hell am I going to be able to try any of them because I don't even know where they'll be available. But, yeah, they're releasing, since we tend to like Sam Adams a lot here, that's pretty awesome. I saw another beer news story that actually someone, it was Beck's, I believe, beer, there was a glob in it that didn't ferment right or something like that. There was like a glob of yeast or something like that it got. It was like this, looked like a mushroom kind of thing that was stuck in the beer and looked kind of disgusting to drink, but they say that happens sometimes, and I don't know, I've never gotten some glob of
that means you're lucky
yeasty crap in beer. But there was actually another story that involved Samuel Smith. They make like oatmeal stouts and that kind of stuff. We can actually get a hold of those over here.
Yeah. Okay, I remember now. They have the little like ribbon. Is there?
Yeah, they have the ribbon. They almost looks like a crocheted quilt is the labels
Yeah.
for the thing. But they apparently were telling the bars that they were giving their beers to over in England to not top the pints off. To basically save money by not giving people the full pint of beer. To make sure the head is like big enough on it so there's like 5 to 10% less beer in it, because what patrons would do then was ask them to fill, like once the head was there, to fill past the head to get rid of that so they'd actually have a full pint of beer. And apparently Samuel Smith was telling their brewers, or not the brewers, sorry, telling the bars that they were selling it to not to do that.
They weren't losing their license over that, were they?
No.
I saw a story that was similar, but it had something to do with basically losing or denying the bar
really?
the affiliation to it, whatever.
Was this in the UK or is this over?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just saw it the other day, and
But that's kind of the
similar.
reverse. That was the bar doing it on their own, and then the brewer saying, "We're not giving you our beer." Because
it might have been the same thing, because I think that the people who ran that bar were being accused of not giving enough beer, and then they said that Samuel Smith told them not to fill the pints the whole way. I think that might be the same story then, but anyway, all right. So we did a little bit of beer news there, talked about what's going on in the beer world. I know it's very limited. There's so many different brewers and breweries out there that's hard to talk about everything. So we're just basically going to try to focus on interesting stories and breweries that we tend to like. Before we taste it, we explain it. So here's an explanation of what an IPA is.
India Pale Ales are classified by what is typically a light to medium copper color, a grassy citrus aroma, and a hoppy bitter taste with some sweet notes. Originally created in the 1840s, IPAs were pale ales brewed with extra hops to help the beer survive the journey from England to India, where painfully sober British soldiers hung around in organized multi-tiered groups hoping someone would come along and take their picture. Some beer drinkers found they preferred the extra hops, and the IPA became a popular form of beer. Since then, other versions have been developed, such as American IPAs, which are characterized by the type of hops used to brew it, which varies from the British counterpart, and Imperial IPAs, also known as double or triple IPAs, which are characterized by the strong taste and higher ABV. Now that we know what an IPA is, let's move on to the tasting. The first beer is Hoppy Trails. It's an American IPA brewed by Appalachian Brewery. The ABV is 6%, and it costs $3.50.
All right, so we're gonna taste our first beer here. As I mentioned before, we're gonna judge this on aroma. It's based out of 5 points, taste based out of 10 points, and finish based out of 7 points. The highest possible score a beer can get is 22. So this is our first beer here, first IPA. So we're gonna see what the aroma is for this. It's not overly strong. It's
Yeasty.
not an overly, a little bit yeasty. There's a little, kind of like a fruity alcohol that probably most beers smell like, a typical
Ketones, I think, almost.
keto.
If you know what that smells like.
Yeah, it just kind of smells like a beer. Right now, I'd say honestly like a little bit of a grassy lager, really. So let's go ahead and taste said beer.
Yeah, not particularly grassy. This one's a little fruitier.
It's definitely, there's the hops, there's the bitterness of that. In the initial taste, I actually got more of a lager, and then as I let it on my tongue for a little bit, it definitely started getting the hoppier, a little bit of bitterness.
Yeah, that comes towards the end.
The slight little burn of like alcohol and stuff. It was all pleasant. It's very good tasting. How'd you?
It's pleasant. It's not very crisp.
Yeah, it's not a crisp beer. I think
the finish is kind of long, and it does get a little bitter.
it does get a little bitter at the end there. As far as that's concerned, the taste that I have in my mouth now is pretty much just, kind of a really sharp hop taste. Not bad, but I think the finish might be the undoing for this beer.
Yeah, the finish isn't as good, I have to admit.
All right, well, we'll finish off our cups here, and then we're going to bring out beer number 2.
The second beer is Stone IPA. It's an American IPA brewed by Stone Brewery. The ABV is 6.9%, and it costs $4.50.
So in between the first beer and this beer, what we're doing is we had some water to cleanse our palate. We're not involving any food or anything else because we don't want that to kind of get in the way or muddy any of the tastes of what we're having here. So this is beer 2. We can see just from a visual standpoint, it seems to be a little bit more carbonated than the first one we had. It has a little bit more of a head on it, just kind of a little bit of foamy bubbles, but you know, with IPAs you're not going to have much of a head. So I'm not getting much of a smell at all off this, actually. I can't smell anything.
That's interesting.
It's a very non-smell.
It's very mild.
I'm not getting alcohol, I'm not getting fruit, there is
grass.
absolutely no aroma whatsoever. So
That'll be interesting to see how it
I
tastes
don't
compared to
know
that.
how we necessarily would score that, if that would mean it gets, necessarily 0 because we're not smelling anything, but it's not unpleasant. So I don't know really what that. Yeah, I guess we have to at least score it something because it's not
There's
unpleasant.
a hint of something there.
So-
But it's,
No, I'm getting absolutely nothing off
All right,
this.
well, let's taste it.
All right, so you're going to go ahead and taste this.
And it tastes about like it smells. It's like a non-entity.
No. I don't know. When you first, it's not as
Compared to the first one, there's like...
it's not as carbonated as you think when you're looking at it with very bubbly, but I think it was a bit smoother than the other. The hops was not as strong. There was the hop taste that you got in the finish.
Yeah, the finish is still hot.
On the end, you still are getting that hops. You're not really getting grass notes or anything.
there was a little bit of something at first. When it first hit, at least for me, when I first hit my tongue, but it was very hard to describe.
It was almost more. It foamed up almost a bit in your mouth. Like the bubbles, like really went really quick, and then just subsided, and then it was just a real smooth.
Yeah, but it has a very carbonated beginning, which goes along with the fact that you can just see more of it in the glass.
Yeah, this one is not as strong an IPA, I think, as the last one.
Definitely.
I'm not tasting the alcohol in it. Like you said, you have the hops there at the end, whereas the previous one, the hops was right there in your tongue in the beginning.
So very different character from the first one.
Yeah, definitely different. So we're going to go ahead and score this, and then we're going to try the third beer.
The third beer is Centennial. It's an American IPA brewed by Founders Brewery. The ABV is 7.2% and it costs $4.
So this one that we have now, this is our third beer. We obviously cleanse our palate then in between. We have a real gold color to this, which is
Can you bring in some red?
a bit unusual. Typically IPAs are going to be much lighter in color.
Hence the pale ale in the name.
Yeah, they're not necessarily going to be a watered down or look like Coors Light or anything like that. There's going to be a little bit of body to it, but it's mostly from the hops, so you're not really going to see the color that you have there. This one has a really faint smell to it. More so than the second one, and not as much as the first.
Yes. It's
You can't really place it.
it's a grassy smell.
Is
It's
it?
a
Really? I'm
grassy.
getting sweet.
It's a sweet. It's
There's a
sweet grass.
slight hint of grass at the end of that, I think.
I'm getting sweet.
There's definitely, sweet, like a honeyish?
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of a very, very faint sweet aroma to this. And definitely pleasant, not overly strong, but pretty good. So let's go ahead and taste this. Yeah, there's kind of it's almost like a hoppy honey taste to it.
This, I think.
Very good.
Now, I could get egg on my face on this one, but I think this has a higher
Alcohol content. Maybe that's
I
why the
can taste
sweetness
it.
is there to
I
kind of
can
hide
taste
it.
it more. I'm definitely getting that.
Well,
towards
you're
the
definitely
finish.
not smelling any of the alcohol in there, which typically, if it's going to be a pretty crappy beer with a high alcohol content, you're just going to smell alcohol and you're going to taste alcohol.
Yeah,
With
it's
this,
almost like a
not
beer
smelling
liqueur.
alcohol whatsoever,
No, it's
and
not. But I
honestly,
think I can taste
I'm not
it.
really tasting the alcohol in here. I think I can taste that it's being covered up a bit, but it's a very pleasant taste. It's not overly hoppy. It's not overly. The finish is not bitter.
No.
I think it stays fairly.
It's not a long hop finish.
It
like the
stays
first
fairly
one.
consistent throughout the taste, and then when it leaves, like right now, I don't have that the hoppy bitterness
No,
in my mouth at all.
no, it's pleasant. It's definitely pleasant.
Yeah, that's a good flavor. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and score this one, and then we're gonna move on to our final beer.
The fourth beer is Hopsalutely. It's a triple IPA brewed by Fegley's Brew Works. The ABV is 11.5% and it costs $5.
All right, we have our fourth beer here. We've cleansed our palates, so we're gonna go ahead and check this one out. So let's see here. Just based on color, you can see
Definitely lighter.
a lot lighter than the last one. I'm not even seeing any carbonation in it, really. Very, very little carbonation for it. Very grassy smell.
Yes.
Very grassy smell.
Yeah, there's definite hop grass going on.
Yeah.
And almost a little lemon, a little citrus.
Now, how do you feel about a smell like that? Is that something that is
Well-
appealing to you in an IPA to have a grassy smell to it, or do you prefer like
depends.
almost a non-aroma?
But,
Okay, so this might not necessarily the aroma that you're getting on this might not necessarily make you want to.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. The other
The
ones.
opposite.
The other ones.
The other
this
ones are like-
ones would make me want.
That makes you want to try. Okay,
Yeah.
so for someone who likes IPAs, this kind of grassy aroma and stuff is
Yeah,
definitely.
when I'm
positive.
thinking of an IPA, this is what I'm
This,
thinking.
yeah, this is a little bit more kind of along those lines, and this is probably a little bit more towards what turns me off about IPAs. Actually, is these grassy notes, but I don't know if a Dogfish Head exists in this group or anything, but this would be the one that I'd assume would be the Dogfish Head, because this is how I feel that they typically smell and taste are towards a grassier side, and a lot of people like that about the IPAs. But let's go ahead and taste it and see what we think. Okay, the grass taste is there, but it's under everything, and it stays there the whole way through.
Yeah, it's a lot
From
more,
beginning
it's a lot
to
more
finish.
consistent.
Yeah, beginning to finish, you have those grassy notes there, but then there's kind of what's like a buttery honey almost.
Yeah.
There's a sweetness to
Yeah, I
it.
kind of get a buttery mouthfeel.
Yeah, there's a buttery mouthfeel that kind of like layers over that those grassy notes for it.
Higher alcohol content.
I can see that.
thinking-
It's definitely higher than the first two. I don't know about the third, but it's definitely higher than the first two.
Well, unlike
I don't
the
feel like
third-
they're trying to mask anything, but there's
No.
that maltiness. Yeah, there's definitely a sweet
Yeah, I know what you're
alcohol
saying.
taste
I know what
that's
you're saying.
in there. It's a little. I think if people who didn't like beer were to try this, the thing they'd probably say about it is cough syrup. To be honest, there's a bit of a heavier, syrupy taste.
It is
to
a very syrupy taste.
That's for people who do not like beers. I think if they taste that, they'd be like, oh, this is a cough syrup or something like that. I don't feel it necessarily tastes that way. I think there's a lot more to it than that, but it is a bit syrupy.
Well, in my experience, the higher you get in the ABV, the more sort of syrupiness you get to it. That one we had at your wedding rehearsal, the Stanislav, or however you pronounce it, which was 14%, which is a little, on the high end.
That was thick.
That was very syrupy tasting. It was almost, you just wanted about that much of it and you're good.
So I'm guessing if we had to guess that, I don't know about everybody else, that maybe this might have the higher alcohol content, or it doesn't hide it as well.
Right.
Possibly the second one, or the last one, the third one, the last one that we tried.
3 and 4 were the higher ones. I don't
might
know
have
between the two which it is.
That might have the higher alcohol content than this, but this doesn't hide it. It's definitely there. I can feel the warmth a lot more in my throat and in my chest after having drank that.
And that third one had more of a honey type thing.
Yeah, that one
so
was
that might have been hiding it
a little bit less syrupy, a little bit more of a water taste to it, I guess. But definitely, this is a lot more of what I'd feel an IPA tends to be.
Yeah, but it doesn't have that bitter finish. Like even though I'm not way into the IPAs, I enjoyed this one more than the first two because even though the hops are there, it's not dragging on in the finish.
Yeah, I don't have that bitter taste or anything, so it's a clean tasting IPA, and it tastes like an IPA. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and score this one, and then we will let you know the results, and we'll have the reveal of the beer that wins.
In fourth place is Appalachian Brewery's Hoppy Trails with an average score of 12.8. In third place is Stone Brewery's Stone IPA with an average score of 13.2. In second place is Founders Brewery's Centennial with an average score of 15.6. In first place is Fegley's Brewworks Hopsalutely with an average score of 16.3.
We're going to reveal it for the first time and see what exactly we picked here. So, what do we have?
This actually was
Fegley's
Brewworks. Hopsalutely is the name of it.
Yeah, that's
a triple India Pale Ale, which is probably why it tasted so much like an India Pale Ale.
It is an 11.5% alcohol beverage, so
I think we called that right.
Yeah, Tom definitely nailed the alcohol in this one. That's really high, but yeah, Fegley's Brewworks, Hopsalutely, is our winner of the IPAs. I have to say,
they have the hop right on it.
Personally, for me as a non-IPA drinker, 3 was my favorite. We'll see what 3 is then when it comes up. That scored my highest out of all of them, and I think if you're someone who wants to try an IPA but you're not really into the IPAs, you're not sure if you're into the IPAs, 3 might be your better option. I don't know as far as cost is concerned if that's going to be at all cost prohibitive. If you're looking for a really authentic IPA taste though, and a pretty decent one, this one is obviously what we go with. Do you have any other thoughts on any of the other 4 that, of the 4 that we tried?
I'd have to agree. Yeah, 3 would be my second favorite, definitely. With the first 2 being...
Yeah, there was barely there was 0.7 difference between what scored first and what scored second for us. So, as I mentioned, as a non-IPA drinker, I think 3 would be what I would go to, but if you're looking for a good IPA taste...
Yeah, I'd be happy with either 3 or 4.
Yeah, and if I guess you're looking to get pretty tanked, it's 11.5%, so it's not going to take too many of those to mess you up. So there is our winner. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to pairing our entertainment and our food with our victor here. Absolutely. We obviously paired it, and you can see here in front of us we have what our chef has recommended we pair with this IPA. Do you want to tell us what it is?
Well, yeah, the idea in this one is, the IPA has kind of a sharp flavor to it, a sort of cutting flavor, and also often somewhat grassy. So the idea is you want kind of rich foods to go with it so that they then play off each other. If you had kind of a weaker food or less rich food, it would get lost against the IPA and vice versa. So what we have some nice medallions of Kobe beef here, quite tasty, with a ragu of mushrooms and fingerling potatoes that are in a butter rosemary sauce.
You can find out more information on how to prepare this dish on our sister podcast, Pairings of Interest, episode 1, which will be released along with this one. So please take a look at that podcast if you'd like to see how to make this dish. Thanks. All right, so that's our food pairing. Our sister podcast will then show how to make this lovely meal here to pair with our beer. We'll have the link available at the end of the podcast and on our website, pintsofinterest.net. We've also decided to pair this particular beer with our entertainment pairing. The game entertainment pairing for this week is the card game Tichu. Tichu is a trick-taking card game that's played in teams of 2 using a standard deck of cards along with 4 specialty cards. The object is for you and your teammate to get rid of your cards first, ideally before either player in the other team can. The playstyle is similar to games like Asshole, where players must match the cards at whatever's led, but with a higher value. The specialty cards, bombs, and calling Tichus adds a nice wrinkle to the trick-taking gameplay, and it's really what makes this the best trick-taking game that we've played. Games are meant to be played to about 1,000 points, however we find 500 works better depending on how long you want the game to last. After a few hands, the game plays pretty fast, and the rules are second nature, making it a great game for a higher ABV beer. You can also take this game out to a pub or any gathering that you have with beer, and it's easy to just kind of whip out and play. It plays with 4 people, so you're going to have a limited group size when you're playing it, but it's still a great game to play when you find yourself in that situation. Our movie this week is The Protector. Oh, The Protector. A man wants his elephant back. Bone-shattering mayhem ensues. That's pretty much the entire plot of the Tony Jaa Dislocation Fest. Tony Jaa is protecting anything in this movie. It's the job security of the local henchman rehab clinic that would need to teach a couple hundred people how to walk again. Great expectations it ain't, but I don't remember Miss Havisham hucking an elephant by its trunk through plate glass. Advantage, Protector. The movie is notable for a couple of scenes, such as a single-take fight stunt sequence up the numerous floors of a building, and a great end fight scene that features rubber elephant tossing, Muay Thai ass whooping, muscle quivering, and just a pinch of vindictive ladyboy. Word of warning, make sure not to confuse this with the tepid Jackie Chan movie of the same name. Now, let's sit back and watch the mayhem happen.
It is an ancient form of combat, meant to protect a way of life. But when a crime syndicate tried to steal their secrets and destroyed everything they loved, the last remaining warrior must use his skill to take down a city of corruption. Kill him.
Bring him back.
On box Tony Jaa is The Protector.
So that's episode 1. This is the IPAs. For episode 2, what we're going to do is porters. Next time, we're going to have the same format, 4 beers, and we're going to choose our favorite out of those 4 beers. So any last thoughts for IPAs?
They're good. That's all you need to know.
Put them in your head hole. All right, so that is it from the Pints of Interest, and until next time.
See you.
On Pints of Interest, we let you know what the podcast is all about. Have a taste-off between 3 IPAs and a mystery IPA, and let you know what food and entertainment will pair best with our winter. All this next on Cram Up Your Ass.
Your cup store. Just
Next on Dork Coffee Podcast.
yeah, I saw it.
Let me take this poking out of your mouth.
Shut up. You can visit us at www.pintsofinterest.net to see new episodes, watch our minisodes, check out some beer news, and just generally chat about all things beer and entertainment. You can also find our cooking-oriented sister podcast, Pairings of Interest, at the Pints of Interest website. You can follow us on Twitter at Pints of Interest, find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pints of Interest. If you'd like to email us suggestions, questions, recommend beers, or whatever else, please contact us at pintsofinterest@gmail.com.